Hello, my name is Jack Owen, and I'm currently in my second year at Northwestern University, studying biological sciences and theater. And I'm here to talk to you all today about my experiences in the study of biology, as well as my experiences in theater, and how each fuel my passion to pursue medicine. Now, I grew up in rural Maryland, which is roughly in the middle of the eastern coast of the United States. I live in a forest, surrounded by nature. And in my backyard, there's a pretty large pond, filled with all sorts of life, from the bugs crawling around in the mud to the beavers building dams and lodges out of that mud. Now, having spent so much time there as a child, I developed a love and interest in all of the life that called this place their home. And as I grew more familiar with the space, I grew more sensitive to its changes. One summer particularly, I noticed a huge increase in the amount of algae growing in the pond, and with it, a huge decrease in the amount of fish I saw inhabiting the waters. I had an idea that these two events were connected in some way, but at such a young age, I couldn't guess what the connection could be. Now later on, I would learn in school that this was the result of a phenomenon called eutrophication, which I'll skip the details of for the purposes of this lecture. But learning this in school reaffirmed the idea that I already had on my own, that all of these organisms are connected to one another in an incredibly delicate balance. And it absolutely blew my mind how so many vastly different individual organisms could coexist in such a complex and dynamic system. Now, eventually, when I learned that such complex and dynamic systems reside within me, and that they're literally what allows me to function as a human, well, I was absolutely hooked on biology. And I wanted to know as much as I possibly could about how these systems function. Now, these systems within us are not made up of bugs or beavers, but instead molecules and chemicals, which then make up cells, which then make up tissues, and then eventually making up organs that provide the functions necessary to keep us alive. I was astounded by how life's complexity compounded upon itself, how a single chemical reaction could propagate into bringing forward life itself, bringing forward me. Now, viewing the human body, as well as the rest of life, as the most complex machines to ever exist, gives us the ability to view our bodily functions from a mechanistic standpoint. Just as a mechanic can fix any part of a car because they know how every part works, biologists are constantly working to understand how our bodies work so that doctors might be able to fix us when something goes wrong. This gives us the power to take control of our own existence, rather than just be subjected to the circumstances we find ourselves in. Our knowledge of how we function and our pursuit to function more efficiently is what has pushed our race out of the rest of the animal kingdom and into the societies that we see today. Now, going into university, I wanted nothing more than to do research in a biology laboratory and play a part in finding new information about how life functions and how we can use that information to preserve our own health. And that's exactly what I did. I signed up for research seminars, found a place in a synthetic biology lab, and worked there for my first summer. And the work I did there was incredibly interesting and furthered my abilities as a scientist in ways I never could have expected. But as the days went on, I found myself getting more and more isolated in my studies. I didn't interact with as many people as I used to, and I didn't experience the range of emotions I grew accustomed to at home with my loved ones or with my friends. I felt as though my life had something pushing it forward, my passion for biology, but nothing really filling it. Now, this is completely my personal experience, and there are plenty of people out there that can find complete fulfillment in scientific research alone. But for me, the reality of the scientific research process didn't excite me as much as the subject matter itself. And coming to this realization was very difficult for me. Biology had always been the thing that I thought had motivated me and inspired me the most in my life. If doing research in biology didn't bring me fulfillment, then what would? So in wrestling with this, I thought back to all the things in my life that brought me joy and fulfillment. And I tried to stay away from things that were tied to a certain person or place because I knew I couldn't take that exact joy with me wherever I went. I had to find a greater theme, something that I could merge with my passion for biology. And the thing that I kept on going back to was theater. Now, I had been doing theater for most of my life, but it was always just a hobby I had, and never something I saw myself pursuing a career in. Just something fun and organized that I could do with my friends in between school and homework. And when I picked up a double major in theater at university, I still thought of it as something I could do that was fun on the side. But once I started to look back and really think about why I thought it was fun and why I was reluctant to let it go, I began to realize that, theater brought me just as much fulfillment and excitement as biology did. And it's because I was spending time with new people, hearing their stories and sharing my own, working with others to create art that was compactful to everyone involved. This provides a space for you to learn about yourself by hearing about the experiences and struggles of others. My acting teacher always says, theater is the pursuit of finding out what it is to be human. Now, when I first heard this, I thought the answer was simple. A human is any organism belonging to the species Homo sapiens. I thought that question had already been answered by evolutionary biology. But what I was missing was that though biology has uncovered numerous things that distinguish human life, it offers nothing to define the human experience. If humans are the most complex machine to ever exist, then it would make sense that their perspective is just as complex. And what's beautiful about perspective is that each is incredibly individual, yet has the capacity to grow and change through exposure to others. I wouldn't be the same person if I was raised by different parents or had different friends. And this phenomenon is what I believe to be the essence of our humanity, our ability to connect and empathize with each other's experiences, even if we cannot understand fully why. Ironically, in my journey to find out how humans function, I had lost my own sense of humanity. So if biology connects us to the rest of the life on this planet, and our humanity connects us with one another, how can we make a bridge between those two tethers? This is the question I needed to answer in order to find out what career path I wanted to take. How can I use my knowledge of biology to uplift my own humanity? I found the answer when shadowing my first medical doctor. Now, he was a spinal neurosurgeon, so one of his typical days consisted of seeing patients and hearing how their injuries affect their daily life, or how their recovery from surgery might be going. So many of these people suffered from severe pain that didn't allow them to sleep or work or care for their loved ones. Though multiple of their medical issues were the same, each person had a different story to tell. Each person's humanity was affected in a different way. He was able to connect with each of these people on a person-to-person level and use his knowledge of medicine and biology to help these people reestablish their own personal humanity. And I found that this was exactly what I was missing in my pursuit of biology. Never before had I seen humanity grounded in the practice of science. His ability to empathize with his patients brought an entirely new dimension to the importance of his work. He was not only interested in the incredible power of biology, but also in the lives that such power had the potential to help. Although many of the medical problems he was fixing were the same for many of the people, the unique perspective of each patient brought new life to each case. And that is why I've fallen in love with the pursuit of medicine. It bridges the gap between the science that I love and the humanity that I need. I'll end with sharing with you the wise words he once shared with me. In order to be a great doctor, you must not only be a great scientist, but also a great human. Thank you for listening.